You're listening to On the Job with PORAC, hosted by PORAC President Brian Marvel and Vice President Ben Therriault. On the Job with PORAC is your go-to podcast for insights into the challenges and opportunities facing law enforcement professionals here in California and across the nation. Our goal is to provide an inside look at these issues from the perspective of officers who risk their lives to protect and serve their communities.
Welcome to another episode of On the Job with PORAC, the podcast where we dive into issues that matter most to California's peace officers: legislation, public safety, benefits, advocacy, and the values that define our profession. I'm Brian Marvel, President of PORAC. With me is Ben Therriault, Vice President of PORAC. In this episode, we're focused on one of the most valuable and impactful ways PORAC supports its members and local associations every single day: the PORAC Insurance and Benefits Trust, or IBT. IBT is a member-governed, mission-driven, and built specifically for the unique needs of peace officers, their families, and the associations that represent them. It delivers high-quality, affordable, and reliable benefit solutions while providing long-term stability in an environment where costs continue to rise. Today, we're honored to be joined by Steve Latham, Chair of the PORAC Insurance and Benefits Trust, and Damon Kurtz, IBT Recruitment and Retention Manager. They'll walk us through what IBT offers, why it stands apart from other providers, and how they're expanding into all 50 states. So now is the perfect time for more members and associations to take full advantage of these benefits. Steve and Damon, thank you for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Well, why don't we just talk in generalities of what IBT does and how it supports our members?
Well, I mean, you know, at its core, it's an insurance trust, right? We don't get too creative with our name there, but we exist, and we were created to provide benefits and benefit options to our membership throughout the state, and try and fill the gap sometimes that exist in public safety and public sector employment benefits. So, big thing, you know, disability benefits for our public safety officers up and down the state, health insurance, life insurance products. You know, really trying to make sure that we're there as that safety net that insurance is supposed to be for the first responders up and down the state and members of PORAC.
Yeah, I think it's one of those benefits that maybe gets missed by folks, and anybody that's heard me speak, and I always my spiel is that we focus on legal defense because we should in our profession, right? We don't want to go to jail for doing our job, but the reality is the majority of us will not need an attorney for doing our job, but over half of us are going to have a workers' comp injury. Another large percentages are going to have long-term injuries that require you to take time off. The disability plan's there for you. And then obviously everybody needs health care, and we have probably one of the premier PPO plans in the state, and it's completely governed by our active cops. So I think that's what makes us unique, but I don't think we're talked about enough just because it's not the focal point. It's just one of those things that's just there and until you need it, and then you realize that, hey, I need to reach out. So,
what's the why then? Because, you know, that's the first question, you know, members ask. Well, why should I participate in this plan? Why should I do all this? You know, you can go get insurance anywhere. Why do this?
Yeah. So from a specific, when you're looking at the health plan, right? So the benefits we provide with the PPO plan, it goes out of state, which a lot of, if you're in the CalPERS plan, you're probably going to have to go find something new when you retire and leave the state. Things like body scans, right? Most insurance plans don't offer that. This is something that for us as first responders and the exposures we get, there's really no early detection for us, but our plan offers this. Most plans don't because it may cause you to go see your doctor and cost more money, you know, for the plan, right? Our goal is about the people we represent, and so our trustees, you know, Steve can chime in on this, is that their focus is make sure that we have enough reserving and provide the best benefit, not what costs too much or and makes us more money.
And that's really one of the things that makes us unique in the healthcare market is compared to an insurance company that's out there. You know, they're looking at their bottom line. They got stakeholders, right? They want to know, like, what profit are we going to earn at the end of the year. Whereas the IBT, you know, we're a nonprofit. We're made up and governed by law enforcement members up and down the state. You know, the people that are making the decisions sitting in that boardroom when it comes to things like rate setting and reserving and what benefits we can offer or expand. I said, they're all the same people that are at your chapter meetings at the local PORAC level, right? We're all working cops. We're here as trustees on a volunteer basis to run this trust. And really, it's like we put the members first because we are the members, right? We're here to, provide these benefits and do the best job we can running this trust and provide what our members truly need in these times when they come around. It's like whether it be an illness or an injury that takes them off work or whatever happens, we exist to just make sure to volunteer, be there, and run the trust so that the benefits are there to pay out when our members need us.
Yeah, I really feel that the folks that came before us really had some really good foresight for thinking about an LDF plan, an insurance and benefits plan, and a retiree medical trust, which really, I think, sets us apart from other organizations, whether statewide or national. With IBT now being able to be offered in all 50 states, we sort of joke with our other law enforcement groups, but we are a full-service organization now where no other organization can really say that. So I appreciate the hard work on going in and creating a national insurance program that benefits peace officers throughout the United States now, because the benefits that we have here and that we've derived over the times in California, it's great to be able to share that with other associations throughout the United States. I guess with that, the model that you have set up, how does that benefit the members? All our trusts are similar in the fact that they're all active peace officers serving peace officers and their families. Maybe you can explain a little bit more how IBT functions in that manner too.
Well, I think if you look at it, the trustees, whether it's the health plan or the disability plan, right? So they govern it. They're providing guidance to the building and our staff. But when it really comes, the rubber meets the road is when it comes to an appeal, right? Because we're still an insurance product. We're still governed by DOI and those issues. So an appeal comes to the trustees, and particularly on the health plan, and they don't look at it. And myself as a former trustee, we don't look at it like, hey, how much money does this cost, and this is an out-of-network cost, and should you pay the bulk of the cost as the member? We look at it like, well, what would we have done in that same situation? And if the answer is we'd probably have done the same thing, we're probably going to figure out a way to cover that cost so that it doesn't put that burden back onto the member. I think that's one of the important things that people need to think about what we do. And then the expansion of this is just to provide that same benefit to the community, the public safety community, law enforcement specifically, because, as PORAC, I think that we provide a different vision than some of the other names that are out there that represent law enforcement.
I really like that that aspect that it's the trustees are all folks that are have stake in the game. One, they're like members of the plans themselves, and then also they're active folks as well. But then just the fact of the matter that you can sit there and you get some type of we've all gotten kind of crazy medical bills over the years. We're like, wait a minute, I thought this part was covered. That's happened to a lot of people, and sometimes it takes a while to get worked out in the wash. But ultimately, it's nice that the trustees or folks that are can apply some type of, like you said, common sense to things. It's not some Poindexters in a room somewhere who are like, I'm sorry, we're going to have to go ahead and hit you with this bill whether you like it or not. And then people can take a fair look at something and be like, you know what? All right, I understand why that happened. We can cover it, and it's fine, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and a big thing is too, like I mentioned, we're the same. The trustees are all at your local chapter meetings, right? If you have an issue, or one of your members, if your association leader has an issue, you have direct access to one of the people sitting on the board managing your health insurance trust, and that's unheard of in the private sector. You get away from any national insurance company. It's you're never going to get that. Whereas we're available for our people.
The portability is huge too. Yeah. You talked about going out of state. As someone is doing your former role. The recruiting and retention of things. When you're telling people hey, you can actually leave the state. That's a big hang up for a ton of people. Or when people go out of state and they might be out retired for a year or two, and they're like, I'm getting crushed here on this cost. What can I do to they call back to the association leaders and they figure out, well, yeah, this is a plan you can do and you can take, and you're going to get a great value for the price.
Right. And part of the goal going out of state, right, is that it'll hopefully bring those rates down for the retirees as well. Right now, the out-of-state rate's a little bit higher because the only pool that we have out-of-state are retirees, which tend to be a higher usage. But as that grows, then there should be a smoothing effect, and it should help everybody within the plan. So,
Yeah, that's the one thing I really hear from people is it's like they have their local plan and they want to retire and they want to move out of state, but moving out of state, they lose access to that local plan, so then they have to go onto the market, whatever state they're going to. I think, like Ben said, the portability of being able to keep your plan that's with PORAC and be able to move in any one of the 50 states is tremendous. I know one of the discussions that we hear a lot about too is rates. Yeah. Like everybody has rate setting, even RMT, they sort of set your benefit. Yeah. How does can you walk us through a little bit on how IBT determines what the rates are going to be? Are there special considerations or, Damon's right. Even when we were working together as at PORAC, the people, I guess IBT is not as glamorous as LDF.
Yeah.
So
that's what I always tell everybody. It's like LDF has all the really exciting stories, right? Fighting out there, getting cops, acquitted who were just out there doing their jobs, got charged by these these advocate DAs that are trying to be activists out there. And so LDF is exciting, right? That's sexy. Insurance is none of those things, right? If insurance is going well, it's just boring. It's not something you think about. It's in the background. It's there if you need it. But yeah, as we're talking about setting rates, it's inflation in the healthcare market is a real thing, right? And it exceeds inflation in the out in the open market every year. But when we're getting ready to set those rates, right, we're looking at our own population, which generally it's like many cities and counties don't want to let the cops and firefighters go because we're generally some of their healthiest people. So when we're talking about setting rates, it's like we're dealing with that Census Bureau of, already some of the more healthier people out there. So we're looking at things, what are our costs, what did we pay out last year, and then what are our reserving. And one of the things about being a nonprofit is like when we have our reserves and, investments are going well or other things happening, we can use those savings to offset any increases we're seeing from our national carrier for the rates that are coming our way. And, the bottom line profit is like, hey, we're just we exist to provide a service. That's the first and foremost. And being a nonprofit, yeah, we have to cover our costs. We have to put money aside for reserving and, the rainy day and the what if disaster scenarios. But we're not paying out shareholders on top of it. We're not making a profit off of our members. We're here to provide a service. So that's first and foremost. And the same thing, the people setting your rates are those same people at your chapter meetings every month, right? We exist. We're paying those rates. So we have our own selfish interest in trying to keep them as low as possible when it comes time to set those. So
you deal directly with the insurance provider, right?
Right. So, on the health plan side, we're an Anthem provider, right, and we process all the claims. And so it really comes down to experience rating and utilization, but also there's the bigger part, what piece of the pie Anthem gets, right? And so we can only control so much, but we're able to control, so typically, 1 or 2% we can try to manipulate with our reserves. Now on the disability side, it's a little more difficult. Obviously, it's a little smaller as far as money pool. We're controlled by ERISA, which is another regulatory process. And so like this year, obviously, it was unpopular to have to do it again, but we hadn't raised rates, 2017, and then we did last year and then again this year. But, the way things are going, there was just we couldn't control it. And the bulk of that's going to go to the carrier, right? So MetLife, who underwrites our disability plan, which is also kind of unique from some of the other ones out there where, we have a plan that's going to guarantee that your benefits are there, particularly if you're permanently disabled. It's going to pay you, into your 60s versus other plans out there that may not do that for you.
Yeah, and that's a big point, and I try to tell people how important that is when they're looking at other plans. It's just, really do a good side-by-side comparison of what you're actually being offered because, we have other national type plans where they tell people they're getting a similar service to PORAC, but the reality is it's a substandard program.
Yeah, and specific to the disability plan, I know that, again, we had to raise the rates a little bit again this year, but, as a grand scheme of things, we're still very, very affordable when you look at it compared to something like state disability, which takes about 1% of salary, a little bit more than that. Our most expensive plan is still around $40, right? And that may seem like a lot to folks, but when you get your first check, it's going to be more than you've paid for the entire year for any premium, probably 2 or 3 years of a premium, right? And so it's just a benefit that is there for those. The one thing I just kind of want to stick in here is that it's still and it's kind of one of those things that the folks kind of get upset with. It's a process, right? We're still controlled by the Department of Insurance, so there's a lot of questions that have to be answered in documentation in order for us to provide that benefit. And sometimes the frustration comes because it takes a little bit of time to process these. And the biggest holdup typically is at the member side, like, hey, did you turn in all your paperwork? And because we can't process it, we can't pay you until you provide us all that stuff. So just wanted to kind of stick that in there so folks hear that, like, hey, get us your information and we'll get it processed as soon as we can.
It's like cops turning in reports?
Yeah, right. That's
something's never changed.
I think they're tired of hearing it at my chapter meeting. That's how I close every one of my reports. It's like, hey, an FYI, if you're going on a claim, you're out injured, file your paperwork and get it done early.
And even if you're out on 4850, which you're guaranteed that 1 year, but here's what people don't realize. You get to the end of 4850, you go into temporary disability through your city. If at any time your doctor comes and says you're permanent stationary because you're on a comp claim, your city's going to stop paying you. And so if you don't have your claim with us approved and ready to go, you're going to have a gap in pay. So make sure you have that stuff going. And also, one of the neat things about MetLife is if you end up having to go on claim and you look like you're going to be permanently disabled or permanently or retired out, they'll try to help you with career advancement outside of the job, right? There's time for them to look at that and do assessments. That's part of the reason in the packet it asks about education levels is because they're going to try to help you post law enforcement if your career suddenly comes to an end because of this injury. So
that's a big deal. So it's not just left out in the cold. Like, all right, thanks for playing the game of law enforcement, and see you later.
Right.
It's a nice.
But if you're late getting all this stuff to us, then it's just the opportunities aren't there for them to get that.
To me, it's the same thing as turning the report in on time. It's like, if you don't do it, like, it's going to be delayed, then someone's going to call in and complain and all that, the whole nine. About like success stories, I know it's kind of difficult because you can't get into specifics, but like one I kind of think of comes to mind. It's like some stuff around like ambulances and stuff, right? Folks, or emergency room care. People just you just go do when you got something that's happened to a family member. You're not really like, hold on, let me get my calculator out. And
so we
get the plan document.
I use that one a lot in talking with folks. We call them the ambulance mafia, right? Because any given time, and this happens with hospitals too, and you'll see it with other fields, but there may be negotiations on contracts, and so suddenly this ambulance company is now out of network, right? Well, like you're saying, hey, I'm having a heart attack, but hold on, let me check if you're the right ambulance. You're going to get in that ambulance, you're going to go to the hospital. If that hospital's out of network, you're not going to know. Like these are the things you're checking when you're in crisis mode, and this is where the trustees come in, right? They look at that and like, well, what have I done? Well, I would have gone to the hospital too because I didn't want to die. So we're not going to try to stick you with those out.
Yeah, we see those come in. People are on vacation. Their kid falls and breaks their arm, and now you're in an emergency room, away from where you live. So you just go to the nearest hospital, and it wasn't in the network. It's like we all would have done the same thing.
Right. On the other side of the coin, we have had those where folks just didn't want to go to this one, and we wanted to go this one over here, and they want us to pay for it, and we're like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. So we still have to kind of. There's still fiduciaries.
A financial responsibility with the trust money, but
I think it still, though, at the end of the day, I'd rather be judged by. It's kind of like if I had to have a jury trial. Would I prefer cops doing it? Absolutely. Yep. Would I prefer cops deciding on my, hey, I jacked myself up on something, on some vacation somewhere, and it's like, hey, I didn't really know it's out of the ambulance thing. I didn't know it was out of network. I didn't know it was coming with all these strings attached. Yeah, would I prefer to have some people be like, okay, yeah, I understand. Then, again, some people just like hidden down in a basement somewhere making calculations and being like, oh, you're just someone on a piece of paper to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the city. It's like it's always no, where IBT, somebody can actually go and appeal to colleagues, really.
Well, and the other part of it is that we're in a constant state of evolution, if you will, as a trust, right? Because we're always trying to provide a better benefit to the members, and that, from the bringing Anthem in house, and then last year bringing the disability plan in, which is still in progress, right? It's a process, but we want to hear from the members, and good and bad, right? And we try to take the bad and go, okay, how can we been better, and how can we do better? And so we're working towards those processes, and I think that's the difference between us again than a civilian company who you don't really get. You call and complain, but that you're going to somebody that's taking your call, but you're not ever getting to management level. Your complaints and your concerns are always going to management level here. Yeah. Always.
A lot of folks are kind of, I think a lot of places they either got their county med, right, or they got Kaiser and things like. Maybe kind of go into detail a little bit about the difference maker of the PPO plan. Because a lot of people, it's very hard to get people to, they're so used to something for a long time, and then it's like, hey, this is a much better thing,
Yeah, so Kaiser is what's called an HMO, right? Yeah. So there's Anthem has HMOs, but HMOs basically, they're called a gatekeeper type style. And what that means is, in order for you to go see, let's say you have a spot on your arm because you work motors and you think maybe you may have skin cancer. Well, you're going to go to your primary care physician. Can I go see a dermatologist? And he may look at it and go, no, I think you're fine. But in the back of your mind, do you think you are? And I always kind of look at it this way. It's kind of, and I use this term a lot, a podiatrist could probably diagnose you properly with a heart condition, but they're not going to treat you for it. So do you want to go directly to the dermatologist, or do you want to go to this guy who just kind of looks at everything? With a PPO plan, you get to go to that doctor. You don't have to ask permission. You pay a little more, but you pay more for the better services, right? So I look at HMO plans like a Kaiser, for example. As long as you're healthy, it's fine. When you're sick, it's not so fine. And it's very difficult to get the treatment you need, and it's a lengthy process to get there. And so, again, it's a style that you may like or don't like. If you're asking me, pay the extra money for the PPO, because when you're sick, because you don't know when that's going to happen, you want to be able to go to the doctor that's going to get you fixed quickly.
And what I find with the IBT PPO plan is just from my experiences in San Diego, is your PPO plan is almost as competitive as the HMO plan being offered by my city. So why you wouldn't take the PPO plan is just beyond me, and pay the extra few bucks to go to the specialization that you need. It's a hard call, for some folks, I guess, but for me, it'd be fairly simple.
Yeah, we really work hard on the rates. So if you look at it just from the CalPERS side, right, that's the most comparable we have because we have the history there. Our plan is really closely priced at the gold plan, but it's more comparable to the platinum, right? So we're not really the gold plan. We're more of the platinum plan at the gold rates. And so it's a really good benefit. And it's got the portability factor, right? So it's just all around. If you have access to it, you're silly, in my opinion, not to take advantage of it.
I've always thought the PPO thing kind of applies more to folks in law enforcement just because, of our type of personalities. It's I would much rather get to be the decider of what's going to occur. So paying a few extra dollars is because where I work, Kaiser gets paid, active Kaiser gets paid full by the city, but that's great. However, for a few extra bucks, I get to decide my fate on a host of different things. Or if and I don't have to jump through all this bureaucracy. I'm you know what? I want to just, I want to look into this.
Yeah, or if you got your primary care doctor that you know and you like, great. Right, because on a PPO plan, that's where you're going to go, and like you said, you go see that specialist you want to. Some of the other HMOs is that's your doctor. That's who you got assigned to when you signed up, and that's who you got.
Yeah, you're stuck like Chuck.
And that's not a good situation to be in when you're talking about your doctor and making medical decisions that are going to affect you for the rest of your life. It's you want somebody you're comfortable with, and that PPO plan really allows you to find that right person for you.
Absolutely. So one of the things with LDF, it's super easy to join LDF. You just sign a paper, give us your database, you're in.
Yeah.
RMT, contract negotiations. How does it work for IBT to become a member?
So with the disability plan, you can opt in. It's 50 plus 1% of your association has to be members, right? So you can come into the disability plan. You can do 100%. But it's got to be minimum 50. We are just like PORAC. We're a group. We don't do individual plans. The only thing we do individually is life insurance policies. Same thing on for the health plan. Again, now that we have a non-CalPERS plan, so as long as you're a PORAC association, you're members of PORAC, your association has to join, right? It's basically throw in an application, say, hey, we want to be a member of the health plan. That doesn't mean every one of your members has to be part of the health plan. It just means that, you as a group are going to participate. And so let's say you have 100 members and 30 of them are in the PPO plan and the rest of them want to stay in Kaiser. That's fine. There's no 50 plus 1%. It's just that there has to be basically a furtherance of the association to say, hey, we're joining the IBT for this purpose. So it's a simple process, it really is.
So if they come in and do that, is that considered a qualifying event to be able to opt into it, or do they have to wait for the open enrollment period?
I believe they have to wait for open enrollment.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, though. There's the qualifying events. There's quite a few of them, and I've heard that sometimes this could, depending on where you're at, some may.
It seems to kind of differ where you work.
Yeah.
Like they have different rules on like what they're allowed. It's because it doesn't seem to be like linear.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the census that we have of pretty healthy people. You also got to get sometimes your city to let you go.
Yeah.
Right. So that might be you might have to wait till your next open enrollment through your city.
And the other thing that makes our plan unique is that we're an 80% sworn membership. In other words, 80% of your organization coming into our health plan has to be sworn, no more than 20%. So, if you're a DSA or a POA and you represent, community service officers or dispatchers, they can come into the plan as long as they don't make up more than 20% of your membership. Right. And that's one of the reasons our plan does stay low, is because we tend to be a healthier group as law enforcement firefighters, right? We just tend to you have less utilization, and allows us to keep our rates low. This is the hard facts about that, and that's one. And so we've been a hard line on that 80-20 split since inception, and it's really done us well. And I know that there are groups out there that would like to come in that aren't part of that, don't have that 80-20 split, but we have to draw the line somewhere. So that's kind of where it's at right now.
Why don't we talk a little bit about the expansion? It seems like over the last 8 years, IBT has made a lot of changes, all for the better, in my view. And moving into all 50 states, I think, is just a tremendous step forward for IBT. I just think it really separates us. But let's talk a little bit about that. So,
well, first of all, first I'm going to say is baby steps. We are in the process of that, right? So, the health plan's been very successful, and we know, going back to my vice presidency and stuff, there's a goal to expand the PORAC brand because we believe we have a better product than what's else out there, and our health plan is one of them. And so when we're looking at the health plan, and we knew we wanted to create a non-CalPERS plan, a health plan for our 37 Act counties and our charter cities and those who don't have opportunities to have a PPO plan like ours. So we're able to do that, and in doing so, we realized, well, hey, if we have a non-CalPERS plan, can we offer this out of state? And the answer is yes. It'll be a process, and so we're probably going to start contiguous states, but we're beginning that process. We went and met with WACOPS, which is the Washington version of PORAC, last week, and had conversations there, which went very positive. And I think that we're on the right track. And so we're gonna try to do that methodically and do it the right way, not grow too fast, so that we don't sacrifice the benefits of the people that are in the plan now. So.
Yeah, and it's been big. Just speaking of, you talk about all the expansion and things that we've done over the last 8 years since you've been here. It's like, we're the health plan we brought in-house. We're administering your claims here, at the PORAC IBT. That's who's administering when you file a medical claim, it's coming to us. We've now done the same thing with our disability plan, where we're fully administering the disability plan. And then, now moving forward and starting those baby steps, we have that product, that non-CalPERS health plan, that we can start pushing out and continue to grow. And so that's just, a big part of what's gone on over the last, 8 years, is just growing, but trying to do it in measured steps so that, we're just still providing that high level of service that our members expect from us. Yeah,
absolutely. And, I appreciate all the work. We'll close it up with this last question. Is there Is there anything a member may need to know that there's, you hear stuff out there, but just anything to clear up anything, or anything that just, that you would want the member to know about IBT? Takeaway point.
I think the biggest thing is I want them to understand, and I think they get the message if you're active in your chapter meetings, look, this is health insurance, disability insurance, life insurance and stuff, this trust was created to serve the membership, and it's run by your colleagues. You know, the people you see at those chapter meetings, the people you see at your DSA or POA meetings are the ones running this trust, and they're doing it for the benefit of the membership. And, you know, if you have questions and you're having issues, we're all here for you to answer those questions. We're all volunteer. We're doing this because of how important it is and the impact we can have on our members' lives. So, you know, that'd be what I'd want to leave everybody with. It's like, we're always here. You know, reach out to those trustees up and down the state if you have any questions. But we're here to serve all of you.
Yeah, and then I'll close kind of couple onto what Steve just said. Is basically, this is a multifaceted plan and can be confusing at times. It's a lot of the associations don't recognize what they have, and a lot of their members don't even recognize that they have it or realize that they have this benefit, whether it's a disability plan, a health plan, or these options. And so what I say to you is that reach out to myself, Steve. We'll come to your association. I'll jump on a Zoom. We'll explain these processes and what's there for you, because it is can be a little confusing. You know, again, we're here for you. That's the goal. And so,
very cool. As we wrap up this important conversation, I want to thank our special guest once again, Steve Latham, Chair of the PORAC IBT, Damon Kurtz, Recruitment and Retention Manager at IBT, for sharing their expertise and giving us such a clear picture of how IBT serves our members and associations. We covered a lot today: the member-governed nonprofit structure that sets IBT apart, the wide range of insurance and benefit solutions designed specifically for peace officers, the long-term cost stability it provides in a challenging environment, and the real ways it supports local associations, recruitment, retention, and member satisfaction. To every PORAC member and association leader listening, if you're not already taking advantage of this insurance and benefits trust, now's the time to learn more and see how it can benefit your officers, your families, and your organization. Visit the PORAC IBT website, ibtaporac.org, or reach out to the IBT team directly to explore the options, get questions answered, or start the conversation about bringing these benefits to your association. These are benefits built by active peace officers for peace officers and their families. They deliver real value year after year. To every peace officer listening, thank you for what you do every day. Stay safe out there, take care of one another, and remember, we're all in this together.